Okay, you may now start.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ma'am. Today, we are tasked to report about the activity 3, the periodic table of elements. I am Jimulroy Arvilo, the first reporter of my group. Periodic table in chemistry is the organized array of all the chemical elements in order of increasing atomic number. When the chemical elements are thus arranged, there is a recurring pattern called the periodic law in their properties, in which elements in the same column or group have similar properties. The initial discovery, which was made by Dmitry Mendeleev in the mid-19th century, has been of inestimable value in the development of chemistry. The objectives of this activity are to illustrate the modern periodic table of elements, to define terminologies associated with elements in the periodic table, and to predict the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons of the elements and or ions. Ms. Canoy, are you there?
Okay, as periodic table of elements are organized by atomic number from the element with the lowest atomic number to the highest. Okay, so as you can see, this is the element po, where you can find its atomic weight and its atomic number. So, yan ma'am. Okay, next.
So here in the terminologies, atom, the smallest unit into which matter can be divided without the release of electrically charged particles. It is also the smallest unit of matter that has the characteristic properties of a chemical element. As such, the atom is the basic building block of chemistry. So all you have to do all you have to remember when it comes to atom, it is the basic building block of chemistry. Next po. Ions, any atom or group of atoms that bears one or more positive or negative electrical charges. Positively charged ions are called cations. Negatively charged ions are anions. So, like, yung mga binigay ko dito, guys, is self-explanatory na siya, guys. So, like, easily understandable na siya. Pero if you do have questions, please do ask. Next is proton, or positively charged particles found within the atomic nuclei. The number of protons in an atom is unique to each element. Neutron, neutral subatomic particle that is a constituent of every atomic nucleus except ordinary hydrogen. So hindi siya nakikita sa hydrogen, guys, kasi masyadong maliit ang nucleus ng hydrogen. So it means na unstable ang hydrogen by its nature. Next is electron. Electron is a stable subatomic particle with a negative electrical charge. So ito yung opposite ng proton. Atomic number. The atomic number or proton number of a chemical element is the number of protons found in the nucleus of every atom of that element. So kung ano daw yung atomic number, same daw din sila ng worth ng proton number. Next is atomic weight. The mass of an atom contained in the element. So atomic weight is yung mass daw ng atom in every element, which every element has a different amount of atoms contained inside of them. Next po. Family or group. The vertical columns on the periodic table are called groups or families because of their similar chemical behavior. All the members of a family of elements have the same number of valence electrons and similar chemical properties. So, yung mga, di ba, naka-sort out yung mga elements per their characteristic, whether they're metallic, non-metallic, or any types of tawag dito, minerals. So, they might be similar pero hindi sila the same. Naiintindihan nyo ba guys? They might share similar characteristics, chemical behavior, pero they're not totally the same. Next is period. A period in the periodic table is a row of chemical elements. So ito din is also a way to identify or to sort out the elements in their own columns.
Ay, wait lang. Wait lang. So in here, we are given the task to predict the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons of the following elements or ions. So number 1, our element is copper with a atomic number of 29 and atomic weight of 64. So in finding the proton, alam naman natin na it is equal to our atomic number. So our proton is 29. So in finding the neutron, atomic weight minus proton yan siya guys. So our atomic weight is 64 and our proton is 29. Therefore, our neutron is 35. Kay 64 minus 29 is equals to 35. In finding our electron naman it is equal to our proton since wala naman siyang charge dito. Number 2, our element is arsenic. So, ang atomic number dapat dito is 33. 33 and then our atomic weight is 75. Therefore, our proton is 33. Our neutron is 42 kasi 75 minus 33 is equals to 42. And then our electron is 33 pa rin kasi wala din siyang charge dito. Number 3, our element is hydrogen. So our atomic number is 1, atomic weight is 1. So our proton is 1, neutron is 0, and electron is also 1. So number 4, our element is chlorine. Our atomic number is 17 and our atomic weight is 35. Therefore, our proton is 17, neutron is 18, and electron is 17 rin kasi wala siyang charge dito. Sa number 5, we have sodium, tapos ang atomic number is 11, atomic weight is 23, and nakikita natin dito na it has a charge, which is a cation, and then our proton is 11, neutron is 12, and electron is 10. So bakit hindi the same yung electron natin sa proton natin? Kasi we have a charge here. So ang charge niya is positive 1. So alam naman natin na we always subtract our charge into our proton. So our proton is 11 and then our charge is positive 1. So 11 minus 1 is equals to 10. That is our electron. So number 6, we have oxygen. Our atomic number is 8. Atomic weight is 16 and the charge is negative 2. So our proton is 8, neutron is 8, and electron is 8. So paano 10? So paano natin yung 10 na electron dito? Since ang charge niya is negative 2, so at saka yung proton niya is 8, so 8 minus negative 2, so mag-positive man siya since negative times negative. So 8 plus 2 is equals to 10. That is our electron in oxygen. Next is we have aluminum. Our atomic number is 13 and our atomic weight is 27. And then we have a charge of positive 3. Our proton is 13, our neutron is 14, and our electron is 10. So, bakit ulit 10 yung electron niya dito? Kasi 13 yung proton natin and then yung charge is positive 3. So, 13 minus 3 is equals to 10. That is all. Thank you.
Okay, wait lang. Before tayo mag-move on sa next part of the report, let us check first whether your answers are correct or not. So those who are non-reporters, you may also look at it if tama ba ang submission ninyo. So remember when we had our discussion, the number of protons, ano naman eh? Wait lang ha. Ayan, the number of protons is determined using the atomic number. While the neutrons is atomic mass minus the atomic number. And for the electrons, depende. If walang charge, the number of protons is equal to the number of electrons. But pag merong charge, nakadepende pa kung anong charge niya. So let's start first with these examples na walang charge. So for copper, this is 29, that is correct. The number in the lower portion or the subscript is the atomic number, while the one that is on top or the superscript is the atomic mass. Now for its neutron, you just subtract, diba? 64 minus 29 is 35. So this is correct. Now, since this is class A neutral atom, there is no charge. So the same ang number of protons and electrons. So this is also correct. Next, for arsenic. So this is correct, 33. Mali lang yung nalagay sa activity ninyo. But when you look at the periodic table, the atomic number for arsenic is 33. Now for the neutrons, again, atomic mass 75 minus 33 is 42. That's the number of neutrons for arsenic. And without charge, so the same lang ang number of electrons. For hydrogen, you have one automatically here because of the atomic number, which is 1. And since the same ang atomic number and atomic mass ni hydrogen, so this is automatically 0, 1 minus 1. And then lastly, no charge, so 1 din for the number of electrons. And then lastly, for the neutral atoms, we have, or neutral elements, we have chlorine. This is 17. Looking at its atomic number. So 35 minus 17 is 18. That is for the neutrons. And 17 also for the number of electrons. So these are correct. For number 5, we have class A charge. So this becomes now 2311 sodium. So for positive 1. Okay, may charge siya. Pag na-charge, only the number of protons will change. Number of electrons will change. The protons and the neutrons will remain the same. So for number of protons, it's still represented by the atomic number. So that is 11. And for the neutrons, we still have to subtract atomic mass, which is 23, minus the atomic number, it's 12. So again, dito tayo magkaiba sa number of electrons. Unsa kung giingon sa inyo na palatandaan, if the charge is positive, it means you have more protons than the electrons. So kung pila ang iyahang charge, mauto ang kadaghanon sa protons compared to the electrons. But then again, do not change the number of protons, only the electrons. So positive 1 man na siya. Ang meaning nga ng positive 1, you have 1 more proton than the electrons compared to the electrons. So if the proton is 11, kung mas daghan siya isa, so definitely the electrons here is 10. Okay? You ask question if you are confused, ha? Next, for number 6, this is for the oxygen. So oxygen here is negative 2, 16, 8. Ayan. So the same protons, it's still represented by the atomic number. And the same way on how to compute for the for the number of neutrons, mass minus atomic number. So 16 minus 8 is 8. And for the electrons, this is where we change the number. The charge here is negative 2, and the sign negative means you have more electrons. So 2 man siya, meaning you have 2 more electrons if you compare it sa iyahang protons. Therefore, if the protons is 8 and you have 2 more electrons, then this is correct. That is 10. And lastly, for aluminum ion, I have no space na. Let me delete this. Snap delete ang positive ug negative. This is positive, this is negative. So for aluminum, you have 27, 13, aluminum, positive, 3. So the same thing, 13 for the protons. And then 27 minus 13 is 14. So that's the number of neutrons. And for the electrons, you have a charge there, positive 3. Which means pag positive, you have more protons. So therefore, if you have 13 protons, according sa charge, mas daghan daw og 3 ang protons. Therefore, the electrons here is 10. So 13 minus 3 is 10. So that's the number of electrons. So these are all correct. Any question or clarification? I hope you got the same answers sa inyong submission sa activity. Okay? Wala. So let us proceed. Please continue, reporters.
Guide questions. Discuss the history of the development of the periodic table of elements. The history of periodic table reflects over centuries of growth and development in the understanding of the chemical properties and physical properties of the elements. The following are the highlights of the breakthrough development of the periodic table. In 1789, French chemist Antoine Lavoisier was the first to make true table of elements. He defined an element as a substance whose smallest units cannot be broken down into simpler substance. He then grouped the elements based on their properties into gases, nonmetals, metals, and earth. In 1829, a German chemist, Johann Dobereiner, placed various groups of 3 elements into groups called triads. Triads were based on both physical as well as chemical properties of the elements. He found that the atomic masses of these 3 elements as well as other triads formed a pattern. One such triad was lithium, sodium, and potassium. In 1864, English chemist John Newlands ordered the elements in increasing order of atomic mass and noticed that every 8 element exhibit similar properties. He called this relationship the law of octaves. In 1869, German chemist Julius Lothar Meyer and Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev independently developed the periodic law. They both arranged the elements by their mass and proposed that certain properties periodically occur. During this time, there was a dispute about the ideas of Meyer and Mendeleev. But Meyer, on the other hand, had his first version of periodic table way back in 1864, which was published later 1869, which was the year that Mendeleev published his version. And in 1913, English physicist Henry Moseley discovered the atomic number of each element using X-rays, which led to more accurate organization of the modern periodic table.
Very good.
How are the elements in the periodic table named? Where did the symbols of the elements derived? Next. According to International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, elements can be named after a mythological concept, a mineral, a place or a country, a property, or a scientist. Chemical symbols are derived from the scientific or Latin name of a chemical element, and also Chemical symbols are consist of one or two letters from the name of the element.
Miss Kanoy.
Okay, to wrap things up, the periodic table of elements plays an important role in the development of science in general, in chemistry and in physics in particular. It is full of patterns that enable us to understand the elements, which are built all the objects around us. And moreover, periodic table would not have been possible without all the help of other scientists.
That ends our presentation po. Thank you po. ma'am.
Okay, sige. Thank you, reporters. Thank you for doing your job well in answering the activity correctly. So you have provided correct answers for all the questions there. Ayan. Wait lang, ha? Sige, let's dig deeper to the activity. By the way, do you have questions to the reporters? Or questions? Oops. Questions that you need to clarify? I hope everyone has already submitted activity number 3, ha? Para ma-avoid ninyo ang deduction sa inyong scores. Okay, let's dig deeper with the periodic table of element. We need this very much for the succeeding na mga concepts natin sa chemistry. So karon pa lang daan, please familiarize the symbols of the elements because it might be included in our quiz and even sa exam. Symbols and names of the elements. So that is the reason why we made you illustrate your own periodic table there with the necessary lang na mga information. Yan. So again, our objectives for this activity, we have here illustrate the modern periodic table of elements, define terminologies associated with the elements in the periodic table, and lastly, predict the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons of the elements or ions, in which we have already provided the correct answer a while ago. So I hope you listened how to determine the number of protons, the number of neutrons, and even the electrons, whether they are neutral atoms or neutral elements or with charge na elements. That's what we call ions. So this is class, the periodic table of elements. This is the modern one. If you have a periodic table there, tapos kaning diri sa 113 mga UU, QUU, unsa pa na mga UU din ha, that is class an old version of the periodic table. So please look at your periodic table if that is the current one, because 113 to 118 they have already their names. We have elements discovered na. So we have nihonium, flarovium, moscovium, livermorium, tennessine, and the oganison. Again, the old one, the old version has no names there. You have UUQ and mga UU din ha. Wala pa na sila na-discover during that time that version was made. Okay, so how do we group the elements here? Take note, class, that the blue ones here in the center, they are our transition metals. Pero that one is a sky blue, right? I hope you can see the colors. And then we have a dark blue, hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur, and selenium. They are our non-metals. Again, they are our non-metals. And then in here, nakapasunod ni siya. These are the alkali metals. Anyway, we will have more discussions about that. Group 2A is our alkaline earth metals. The rest here sa tunga ha, ano na sila, mga metals na sila, but specifically they are called transition metals. And then this one from aluminum pababa are the so-called basic metals. So we have a lot of metals in the periodic table. From here sa lithium, padulong diri kay livermorium, they are considered as metals. Lahi-lahi lang sila. Alkali, alkaline earth, and the basic and the transition metals. And then the one na naka-green from boron, padulong kay polonium are our semi-metals. Therefore, they have unique characteristics, unique na para unique siya na dili siya ma-include sa metals, dili po siya ma-include sa non-metals. Again, the darker blue ones are our non-metals. And then the yellow ones, I hope you can see this as yellow with a combination of a brown sa baba. We call them halogen. They are also non-metals, pero to be specific, they are our halogens. And lastly, itong naka-brown sa last, we call them the noble gases. Okay, the noble gases. They are also non-metals. They are in the form of gas, but they are called noble gases. Sa atong discussion sa lecture, I will explain also why they are called noble gases. And then we only have two groups here at the bottom. We have the lanthanide sa taas, the green ones, and ang sa baba, we have the actinide. So they are rare earth metals. Again, they are called rare earth metals. They are still metals, but they are found very rarely sa earth. Okay, so we have again the lanthanide and the actinide series. So these are our elements in the periodic table. Now, what I want you to do is to be familiar with the names of the elements at the same time their symbols. So please start familiarizing it now. I will not require you to memorize the arrangements of periodic table like group 1 has halina kay Ruby session francium. Hindi ko na yan ipapa-memorize sa inyo. Anyway, that is not really required sa mga medtech. Pero pag pharmacy pa ni akong kaistorya, kagaina pa tamay, tumiagi pa tamo sa sinugdan first day of the class, akong instruction ani kay i-memorize ang periodic table. Pero that's for the pharmacy students. Pero medtech man, dili mo mag-required, dili mo i-require na memorize ang tibuok periodic table. You just have to be familiar with the names and their symbols. Okay? So please be prepared. Kasi mag-quiz na. Okay? Now, let's talk about the periodic table. Syempre, the periodic table contains all the elements that we have that was being discovered, and they are arranged according to increasing atomic number. That's for the that's for the modern periodic table that we have. Naka-arrange yan sila according to their atomic numbers. And remember, di ba, atomic numbers represent the number of protons. Okay? Pag protons, they are the positively charged subatomic particles. Remember, class, elements are our simplest form of substance. They cannot be broken down into smaller ones, but they contain specific kind of atom. So for example, when you say hydrogen, ang iyahang it contains a hydrogen atom also. So kanang atom, dili na siya ma-breakdown into simpler pa na substance, but these atoms contain subatomic particles. So kanang mga subatomic particles mo na siya ang protons, neutrons, and electrons. Do not forget, pag protons positively charged, pag electrons negatively charged, and neutrons are neutral. They don't have charge. Pero pag abot sa arrangement sa periodic table, they are being arranged according to their atomic numbers. And then again, that represents the number of protons. But take note that atoms do have nucleus, kanang sa tunga niya, and that is where we find the protons. Okay? That is where we find our protons. So again, they are arranged according to increasing atomic numbers, but actually, when we arrange them according to their atomic numbers, maano lang po siya, class, automatic, the elements being grouped together do share a lot in common. They have the same properties. They are different elements, but they do share similar properties. And that's what we call the periodic law. Okay? Kanang pattern nila sa ilahang similarity sa properties nila, we call them periodic law. So the initial discovery was made by Dmitry Mendeleev in the mid-19th century and daghan pang development after that. But for the sake of history, the first one to actually set up the table of elements pero with just 33 elements. Remember, we have 118 elements nowadays, but the first one that who set up the first periodic table was Antoine Lavoisier. Okay, it was Antoine Lavoisier who first set up the table of elements with 33 elements. So, apat lang iyahang classification class: acid-making elements, gas-like elements, metallic elements, and earthy elements. So, maulang gina iyahang 33 ka book niya, upat siya ka grupo. So nakadepende kung unsa ang ilahang properties ang pag-grouping ni Antoine Lavoisier. Napa na siya gi-appeal din nga caloric or heat, in which ang modern periodic table karon wala na siya appeal. And even ang light, gi-appeal pa na niyang light din ha. Pero again, they are not now considered as elements. And then after that, we have Johann Wolfgang Dobereiner. Ang tandaan lang niyo, if si Johann Dobereiner, he was the one who made the law of triads. Again, the law of triads, meaning triads, tatlo. He grouped the element in threes or by threes. Ano siyang gihimo ni Johann Dobereiner. That is according gihapon to the properties of the element. So he observed that these elements like chlorine, bromine, and iodine share the same properties or characteristics. That is why they are being grouped together as one. Pero tatlo lang sila. Mao na nga law of triads. And then actually the reporter also, though wala siya sa akong slide, pero yes, that is also correct. John Newlands, na-include siya sa reporter, so I hope naminaw mo. Si John Newlands created the law of octaves. Again, octaves, O-C-T-A-V-E-S. Kung si Johann Dobereiner, he grouped the elements by threes. Si John Newlands grouped the elements by 8. So, kana pud sila mga 8 elements sa isa ka grupo, they also share the same characteristics. And then, another name that contributed in the development of the periodic table was Dmitry Mendeleev. So he was the first scientist to make a periodic table, which is very similar to that we are using nowadays. But how did Dmitry Mendeleev arrange the elements in his table? Actually, he arranged it according to their atomic masses, or that's what we call molar masses, atomic masses, or atomic weight. Parehas lang na sila tanan, or mass number. So gipasunod na niya and gi-arrange niya sa table. Pero naana siya yung mga spaces na blank din ha, because he predicted na naapay mga wala na discovered that time na mga elements. Okay? Kana mga question mark din ha, and even the spaces, he was actually predicting na there are elements na not yet discovered during that time and that he leave that as blank para idagdag na lang when these elements are discovered. Okay, Dmitry Mendeleev ha, ang iyahang arrangement is according to atomic mass. And that is actually true with the one that was made by Lothar Meyer, a German scientist. He was also the co-creator of the periodic table. This time, he had preliminary list of 28 elements and he grouped them into 6 families. But the arrangement again is according gihapon class sa atomic mass, sa valence or even sa atomic mass. So pareha sila class ni Dmitry Mendeleev. They arranged the elements according to the atomic mass. Now, lastly, we have this name, Henry Moseley. He was the first. He made the first modern periodic table. So, yung ginagamit natin ngayon is actually similar to the the periodic table made by Henry Moseley. There are debates kasi about the arrangement of Dmitri Mendeleev and Lothar Meyer. There are questions that they cannot really answer. So it was actually Henry Moseley who resolved some issues of the previous na periodic table ni Mendeleev. And ang iyahang solution was actually to arrange the elements in the periodic table according to their atomic number. So atomic number, si Mendeleev ug si Lothar Meyer, atomic weights, ilahang pagka-arrange. Pero si Henry Moseley, atomic number ang iyahang pag-arrange sa mga elements. And that one resolved all the unclear issues na na-encounter sa previous na mga scientists. And yan yung ginagamit natin ngayon, the modern periodic table. So actually, it was Henry Moseley na nagbuhat. Questions about the history of our periodic table? Anyone? Please include John Newlands, though wala siya sa akong slide. I will give you also a copy of my slide para maka-study mo. We'll have a quiz tomorrow. Tomorrow na lang. About activity number 3. Kasi diba supposedly, my instruction is after ta mag-PostLab sa kada activity, mag-quiz ta. Pero nag-quiz magud ta kagaina, murag lisod pug kaayo sa brain cells ko, kapila mag-quiz sa isa ka meeting. So tomorrow na lang ato ang quiz for activity number 3. So include class sa inyong pag-study ang symbols sa ato ang elements. Again, i-include ninyo pag-familiarize ang symbols and names of our elements. Okay? So this is now class the modern periodic table, but this one is the old version. Take note, you have the UUB and the UUQ, but nowadays this has been completed up to 118th na element. Na UU and UUU, wala na sila karon, na sila mga pangalan. So kanito mga naghinay-hinay na sila og ka-discover, so naay mga napay mga nabilin like UUT, UUO, and UUS. So, nga na siya ang development sa atong periodic table hangtod sa katong na kumpleto na gyud ang mga elements up to 118. We never know, basig napay uban nga elements nga wala pa day na discover. So, we'll never know kung maglahi pa ba ang naong sa periodic table sa sunod. Okay? Now, arrangement of the periodic table class. Let's talk about these terminologies. Take note, pag period gani na siya, horizontal arrangement na siya. So, balikan na to ang periodic table. Horizontal, what do you mean by horizontal? Pahigda. So, this one, going there. So, we have here period number 1, this one. Padulong dito ha, kay helium. So, period number 1 only has 2 elements, helium and hydrogen. And then we have period number 2, horizontal man. So patulong dito. So we have lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and so on. Hangtod period number 7. So if you are asked how many periods are there in the periodic table, the answer is 7. That's the horizontal grouping of the periodic table. Okay? And what's their similarities? What's their similarity? Elements class na group together in one period actually have the same number of electron shells. So, unsay meaning ana? Let me write sa screen. When you say atom, example, we have the nucleus here. Inside the nucleus, you can find the protons, right? And even the neutrons. So outside class, we will find the electrons. And these electrons class are arranged in an electron shell. So pag ang meaning ana class, pag na siya sa period number 1 like the hydrogen, na siya isa lang kabuok. Example, let me rewrite my drawing. Pag na siya sa period number 1, if this is the nucleus, na lang siya isa kabuok na electron shell. Again, din ha sa electron shell, din ha nato makita iyahang mga electrons. Ang nasa nucleus, protons and neutrons. Okay, are you still listening? Are you still here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
About the others?
Yes po, ma'am.
Sige. Questions so far?
None, ma'am.
Okay, so another one, if the element belongs to period number 2, like the lithium, the beryllium, they actually contain 2 energy shells. Ayan, and so on na yan siya. So hangtod sa 7th na period, which means daghan na kayo siya og electron shells. And nagadaghan po ang iyahang electrons. So mao na class ang similarity sa mga elements na nabilong sa the same na period. Ang inyong tandaan, period is the horizontal grouping or arrangement of the periodic table. Mayon kag horizontal, paana na siya, pahigda na siya. Okay? Next term, we have the group. By the way, other name sa group is family. So basin ma-confuse mo, kasi sometimes we will use the term family and sometimes we will use the term group. So family or group, parehas lang na sila. This time, this is the vertical arrangement in the periodic table. So pag mayroon kag vertical, kana patindog. Horizontal man tong kagaina. This time, patindog na siya. That's the family or group. So if we look at the periodic table, we have here class the group 1A or the family 1A. So from hydrogen to francium. This is the group 2A from beryllium to radium. So pababa siya. That's the vertical. And we call this again family or group. Okay? So ang mga transition metals na to class, na po na sila ilahang grupo. We have here the group 3A, group 4A, hangtod 8A na siya sa noble gases. So, mo na siya class ang ginatawag og groups or family. Patindog. Okay? Ayan, so nganong gipangbutangan man to na kog A, group 1A, group 1A, group 2A, group 3A, and then kaning transition metals sa to nga mo nito to ang family B. So napo na sila 1B, 2B, and so on. So pag nabilong gani sa family A, they are called the representative elements. And pag nabilong sa family B or group B, they are called the transition elements. This is why we call them transition metals. So mo ni siya ang mga pangalan sa group 1A class, ay sa mga family A. Pangalan na sa bawat grupo. Group 1A is called the alkali metals. Group 2A, alkaline earth metals. The group 3A, boron group. 4A, carbon group. 5A, nitrogen group. 6A, chalcogen. Group 7A, halogen. And the group, this is group 8A, noble gases. So let's go back to our periodic table and let's find them. So we have here, para ma-determine ninyo. This one class is the group 1A. Again, ang pangalan ana niya kay alkali metals. This is group 2A here. So we call them alkaline earth metals. And we'll jump here. This is the group 3A, the boron group. 4A is the carbon group. 5A is the nitrogen group. 6A, the chalcogen group or the chalcogen family. And then the 7A is called halogen group. And lastly, this one is the 8A. Again, that's the 8A or the noble gases. So mauna siya ang family A nato sa periodic table. They are our representative elements. Everything in between, kani and even this one, they're our family B, or that we call them transition elements. I hope you can determine them now. Wait lang. Yan. And then for group 1, for family B, we only have group 1B and 2B na merong pangalan, the coinage metals and the volatile metals. So ani magud iyahang class, iyahang arrangement ani. Baliktad man gud ni siya pag-abot sa family B. This one is asa na ni? We have here the 1B. Oh, hindi na siya maklaro. And this is the 2B here. And then balik ka diri sa 3B. Padulong dito. Okay, ana iyahang arrangement. Dili siya parehas sa family A nga nakapasunod lang siya 1A hangtod 8A. Kani 1B, 2B niya. Balik ka diri sa 3B kay scandium. Anang arrangement sa family B. So, si 1B lang ug si 2B ang naay pangalan. 1B, they are called the coinage metals. Nga naman, ginagamit sila magbuhat og coins. Copper, silver, ug gold. Again, coinage metals. And these are the volatile metals. Kaya nag-volatilize sila, mahimo silang gas. So, we have the zinc, the cadmium, and the mercury. So the rest, mga family B, gihapon sila. Again, ang family ha kay pababa, vertical arrangement. Okay? So that is the family and groups. That's how we group our elements in the periodic table. Questions so far? Wala, nagkasinabot taan na. Sige. So let us move on. So since 2016, the periodic table has 118 confirmed elements. So muna kung namoy mga UUQ o UUB din ha, that is an old periodic table. It was 2016 when the elements are completed. Na 118 sila kabuo. So from element number 1, which is hydrogen, and element number 118, we call that organeson. Now for the naming and the symbol, each element has a symbol, 1 or 2 letters. So naay mga elements class na duha ka letters ang ilang symbol, na apoy isa lang ka letter. So that represent the element. Mana ang symbol, nag-represent na siya sa element nato, parehas sa pag-represent sa atong initial sa atua. Okay? So atong mga initial nag-represent po sa atua. Yan na po ng elements. Na sila'y symbol na mag-represent sa ilaha. Now the symbol of an element represents one atom of that element. So for 14 of the elements, the symbol consists of one letter. So, di ba 118 kabok ato ang confirmed elements? 14 of that has one letter symbol. The rest class kay 2 letters na. So, I hope that is clear. Okay? Now, how do we write the symbol of the element? The first letter is always in capital. Again, the first letter is always in capital, and then the second is always lower case. Okay, so how do we determine the symbols of our elements? The first one here, the first one, many refer to a property of the element and some written from Latin words. So tagaan ta mog example. Gold. The name of gold is syempre gold, pero iyahang symbol kay AU. So asa gikan ng iyahang symbol na AU? It comes from its Latin name, which is aurum. Mo na ang Latin name sa gold, aurum. And ang meaning ana niya kay shining dawn. So that is why the symbol of the element gold is AU. So dili tanang element class, ang ilahang symbol is coming from their name. Parehas sa helium. So ang iyahang symbol automatic gikan sa first 2 words sa iyahang name. Dili tanan element ana ha. So naay parehas sa gold, which comes from its Latin name. Also with mercury. So mercury ang iyahang symbol kay Hg. It has nothing to do with the mercury, no? sa letter sa mercury, but instead it comes from its Latin name hydrargyrum, which means liquid silver, because that's how it looks like. Property na niya. Umingon kag pag makakita mo mercury, it does look like a silver, but it's like a liquid one. So liquid silver, the Latin term for that is hydrargyrum, and that is where Hg came from. Okay? That's the first one. That's the first reason of the symbols that the elements have. The second one is other elements are named for people. So ang mga name nila, even ang ilahang symbol comes from certain people, mga scientists na to. Parehas anang element called curium. It was actually named after Marie Curie, di ba? She was a scientist, and her study focused more on radioactivity. So again, she was a scientist. She was actually awarded with a Nobel Prize in Physics in 1903 for her study in radioactivity. Thus again, we have one element named after her, that's curium. So diha pod usahay gikan ang ilahang pangalan. Next, there are also elements that are named for places. So gikan sa mga places, pwede sila dito sila na discover. That is why ipangalan sila sa place kung asa sila na-discover. So to give you an example, we have here the small town of Ytterby. That's a small town in Sweden. Gamay lang siya nga place, pero actually we have 4 elements named after that place. So kanina mga 4 elements were discovered din nga mga places. We have these elements: terbium, yttrium, erbium, and ytterbium. Muna ang mga nang upat ka elements nga gipangalan from Ytterby, a small town in Sweden. And then we also have another example, Californium. So from the name itself, kabalo na gitag-asa siya gipangalan. Ay dito siya first na observe, dito siya first na discover. Californium from California. So pwede po na siya ang reason na numuon na siya ang pangalan sa element. Gikan siya sa place. And lastly, we have some are named where it is first isolated. So dili na siya about sa place class, but instead kung asa nakuha, asa na isolate ang isa ka element. Unsa nga thing, unsa nga butang siya first na isolate. So pwede po na siya. To give you an example, potassium was discovered in 1807 and named for potash, the substance from which potassium was first isolated. So again, kanang element nato nga potassium, it was first isolated from potash or potash. So mo nagipanganlan siya og potassium. Okay? Pero ang symbol ni potassium kay K. So gikan pud na siya sa iyahang Latin nga word which is kalium, pero the same lang ang meaning. Kalium means potash gihapon, pero Latin lang siya nga term. Okay? So mo na nga K ang symbol ni potassium. Pero asa siya na-isolate sa potash or sa potash, mo na iyahang pangalan. Okay? And then another example, tungsten. Another element here. Tungsten was discovered in 1783 and sa iyahang symbol W. So medyo unique no for tungsten kay it has 1 letter symbol and the letter is actually nowhere to be found in its name. But nganong W man, gikan na siya sa word nga wolframite. It's a mineral and dito first na isolate si tungsten. So again, it's a mineral and wolframite iyahang pangalan and dito first nakuha si tungsten. Mao na nga ang symbol ni tungsten kay W from wolframite. Okay? Questions so far about sa naming and sa symbol sa atuang elements? Wala. So let us continue. So composition of our atom. Do not forget ha, atom is the basic unit of matter or the basic structural unit of our element. Simplest substance, element, tapos basic unit of matter or element is the atom. Pero basic unit of life. What is the basic unit of life? Anyone?
Ma'am.
Cell. Okay, very good. The cell is the basic unit of life. Okay. Now we have 3 subatomic particles again of our atom. The protons are positively charged particles. Take note, they are found sa nucleus. Nasya sa tunga. Atong protons together with the neutrons. So si neutrons mo na ang particle na walay charge. So pag i-add nato na sila class protons plus neutrons, mauna siya ato ang atomic mass. So again, silang duha makita sa nucleus. And then lastly, the third one, the negatively charged particles are the electrons, and they are found outside the nucleus. They are surrounding the nucleus class. They are found sa mga energy shells. Diyan nato makita si electrons. And actually, electrons are very light ilahang mass. That is the reason why murag wala na sila gi-include sa pag-compute sa atomic mass sa atong mga elements. Pag atomic mass, protons lang ug neutrons. Now again, it can be considered that atom is composed of 2 distinct regions, the nucleus class, the small dense na positively charged protons. The nucleus class is small and dense and it contains protons and the uncharged neutrons. And then again, surrounding them are the region of negatively charged field. So na din ha makita ato ang electrons which have low masses, so not really included in the atomic mass. Okay. Next, we have the atomic number, mass number, and isotope. So you know this very well. Atomic number, ang symbol ana kay Z. So kung maglibog mo asa ang atomic number, atomic mass, always remember, most of the time, atomic numbers are lower since proton lang man ihang gina-represent and mas dako si mass number kay it is the combination of the protons and the neutrons. Okay? So take note class, pag atomic number, it represents the number of protons found in the nucleus. And pag maingon kag atoms, they are neutral. So they don't really have charge because they have the same numbers of protons and electrons. So mag-cancel lang sila sa ilahang charge. Kaya the same lang ilahang number. Pag dili na sila mag-the-same, maglahi na ang numbers ni electrons, that's the time na na-charge ang atom. And we don't call that atom anymore or element anymore. We call them ions. Okay, pag nasa charge, ions ng tawag. Pag mass number, protons plus neutrons. By the way, the collective term for protons and neutrons is nucleons. We call them nucleons because they are found inside the nucleus. Both of them, the protons and the neutrons. Okay, so atoms and family, let's identify them. 8 there is the atomic number, syempre. O is the symbol, and the name of the element is oxygen. And lastly, the larger number there is called the atomic mass. Okay? Now, how about the atomic number? What does atomic number represents? It can be the proton or the electrons. For neutral atoms for neutral atoms, the same kasi ang charge ay ang number ni protons and ni electrons. Pero pag maingon kag atomic mass, protons plus, take note, lahi na or maning sa atomic number, kani plus. So we need to combine protons and neutrons to get the atomic mass. So kung gusto ta makabalo sa number of neutrons, mag-subtract lang ta. Atomic mass minus atomic number. By the way, to be uniform, please round off the atomic masses of the elements in the nearest whole number. So para nang sa oxygen 15.999, we will use 16 for its atomic mass. I hope that is clear. So examples na lang niya siya, class, more examples of how to identify the subatomic particles sa mga elements. So parehas ani oxygen, syempre 8 iyahang atomic number, so that's the same thing for protons and electrons kay wala man ni siya charge. Pero pag neutrons kay i-subtract 16 minus 8, that is 8. And this is for phosphorus. So phosphorus 15 iyang atomic number, so 15 po iyahang protons, and that's the same thing with the electrons. And for its neutrons, 31 minus 15, it's 16. That is also true for zinc. Baliktad lang na siya, dapat diri na siya sa PCAS. Diri na sa PCAS ginabutang ha atomic number of atomic mass. So 30 for protons and electrons, and 65 minus 30 is 35 for the neutrons. Okay, that's how you identify the number of subatomic particles. More examples, this will be your assignment. Take note, finish the rest of the worksheet and turn it into your teacher. I'll be providing a space dito sa inyong Schoology account wherein you will complete this one. Any piece of paper, any sheet of paper, whether bond paper or yellow paper, as long as tama inyong answer o mabasa na ko siya sakto. So inyong haning assignment from here and here. Okay? Taman din hin. Nakuha to? Isang wala nakakuha sa assignment. You will also see sa Schoology kung kano sa ang deadline ani nga assignment, ha? Okay?
Noted, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes po.
Sige. So again, pag ang atom class naa na siya charge, kay nagbago na iyahang number of electrons, we call them ions. Ions na ang tawag ha pag naa na siya charge. Now, natay duha ka klaseng ions. We have the cation and the anion. To remember it efficiently ha, the T here will give you a hint na cation is positively charged. Wala na, para mas madali atong life, basig maglibog ta, unsa ang cation, unsa ang anion. The T in the cation gives you a hint na it's the positively charged ion. And the negatively charged ion automatically is called anion. So natay mga examples din sa ato ang mga ions class. So pag hydrogen, pag nagbago ang iyahang number of electrons, we have cation na hydrogen, the same thing with the sodium, potassium, and natay ginatawag og mga polyatomic ions, kay combination sila sa pila ka buok, 2 or more elements. Nga pag i-combine sila na sila charge. Pares kay ammonium. Ammonium is NH4 positive. So the rest mga elements na lang na sila na positively charged. Now naapod tayo ang ions, they are negatively charged. So pwede po sila single element, pwede po sila polyatomic ions, meaning they are composed of 2 or more elements like the hydroxide. So OH negative. Ion na siya class ang hydroxide, pero polyatomic ion kay combination ni oxygen and ni hydrogen. Pero negatively charged, so under siya sa anions. Okay, wait lang. So when an atom gains extra electrons, pag 'di ba ang ato ang palatandaan kagaina, pag negatively charged ang isa ka ion, meaning nga na mas daghan siya og electrons. Kay nag-gain man na siya og electrons. Pero pag ang ion is positively charged, meaning nga na nag-lose siya og electron, mao nang mas daghan iyahang protons. That's how you know ha, pag nag-negatively charged, meaning nag-gain siya electron. mas daghan iyahang electron. Pero pag nag-positively charge, nag-lose siya og electron, mo na mas daghan iyahang proton. Okay? So pwede ra na. Pero ang protons class, wala na siya nag-change. Electrons lang na ang pwede mag-gain or mawala. And ang charge na is written as superscript diri sa taas. So like chlorine, -1. That's the same thing with the positive ions. I have already discussed that one. Pag positively charged, meaning nag-lose siya electron mo na mas daghan iyahang protons. Okay? Pag maingon kag monoatomic ion, isa lang na siya. Isa ka element tapos na siya charge, either because nag-lose siya or nag-gain og electron. And polyatomic ion, if it contains more than one atom, parehas to akong ingon kagaina, hydroxide. So hydroxide, OH negative. More than one atom or more than one element. Okay? So I think that ends our discussion. I will talk about isotopes next as a lecture na lang. But any questions so far sa activity number 3?
Ma'am, naay ma'am, nag-goal sila Jendi, ma'am.
Okay?
Nakasubscribe ka ba daw, ma'am, sa Unli Activity o Unli Quizzes?
Uy!
Nakasubscribe ba daw ka, ma'am, sa